If I'm keeping proper track of these videos, I would say we are at the 4th entry of every N64 game. You know, you might see these games put on a shelf, but here we're going to get a good look at all of the art. I'll tell you the games that I have played. Oh yes, your man out of Japan, Jay Contra, by the way, and collecting is a disease. What games have I played? Oh yes, Pokemon Snap. Still has the book off sticker on it. So I often talk about on my channel about how good hard off is. But the related book off, especially the ones in the bigger cities like Tokyo, Fukuoka, they will also have retro games there. I probably got this in Fukuoka, if I had to guess. Doraemon 3, haven't played it yet. It is obviously the 3rd in a series of games. What's about the lighting there? I'm going to have to, I'm just going to put it over here. Yeah, it's, what is this? Nobita no Machi SOS. Sort of like 3D polygonal games. So we've got Doraemon 2. I think I have the first one complete in box over there somewhere. Doraemon 2 is okay. Let's see. Oh, yes. Disney's Magical Tetris Challenge featuring Mickey. Bunch of Disney games for the 64, including Disney Dancing Museum. I guess Mario Golf 64. Have a lot of fun memories of Mario 64 Golf. Mario Golf 64, whatever you want to say it. Oh, I didn't realize for all players hoping to touch the true entertainment. Why did they do that? Why did Nintendo decide that was a good thing? I'm not sure. Move this around there. Maybe we can get, but yeah, there we go. Ah, yes, Nushitsuri 64. A weird, almost RPG fishing game where you like encounter fish and they can attack you, and bugs attack you also. It's really weird. You walk around the environment. It's very reminiscent of like Japanese fishing towns that I used to live in, and you get bugs that attack you and they can kill you. It's actually kind of dangerous when you're playing that. Masters 98. What is? Oh yeah, Haruka Naru Augusta. It's like takes place in Georgia. Yeah, it takes place in Augusta, but it's a Japanese golf game. Golf in Japan is very strange. I'll tell you, they've got driving ranges all over the place, golf courses in a country that does not have the space for golf courses. I don't know. I went to a driving range once, never actually played. We got Pro Mahjong Kiwame 64 by Athena. A bunch of Athena games for the 64. I think I played that. I remember capturing a bunch of footage of Mahjong games for the N64, including Pro Mahjong Uwamono 64. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, for Mahjong games, like, what do you need? You just need a board, the pieces, and you'll be okay. Pachinko 365 Nichi, 365 day Pachinko. Kind of sad in the thought that, yes, you should be playing Pachinko every day of the year instead of spending time with your family. This also, I think, went up in price. It's sort of hard to find this one, which is strange to say about a Pachinko game because most of them are pretty cheap. Original Mario Party. So you may not know this, but the original Mario Party actually caused Nintendo to get into a lawsuit. It was either Mario Party or just the N64 in general, because what happened was kids, what you would do is, and this is Mario Party's fault, there was a Bowser minigame where it was a tug-of-war, where if you have to imagine their controller here, you'd basically just do this, and then you'd get like a blister. I remember when I was a kid in the 4th grade, I had like a blister right here in my hand, because you were playing Mario Party too much. And then in New York, I want to say, they got sued by the state and ended up having to like give out coupons for gloves. Really weird story. I believe the prosecuting attorney was Elliot Spitzer, future disgraced, and I was going to say N64 governor because I meant to say New York. Let's see. Pokemon Stadium. Original Pokemon Stadium on the Japanese N64 is actually doesn't have, I think, all of the Pokemon on it or something. It ended up not being until Pokemon Stadium 2. Yes, hold on. So in America, we only got 2 Pokemon Stadii, but in Japan, they got Pokemon Stadium 1, which is a very limited release because they just wanted to get a 3D Pokemon game out there. And then they ended up releasing Pokemon Stadium 2, which is the version that we got in America. And then we got our Pokemon Stadium 2 is actually the 3rd Pokemon Stadium game. This is Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver and then Crystal version. So wait, was there one that wasn't for the Crystal version? I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. That's fascinating to me. Okay, so we'll put that to the side. Power League 64 by Hudson, a basic baseball game. I reviewed it as part of my reviews of all the Japanese exclusive baseball games that came out for the 64. It's okay. Buck Bumble. Yes, Buck Bumble. It's an action shooting game. The complete in box version is like $100 now. It's one of the few N64 games that's hard to find and it's slightly expensive. Let's see. Bomberman 64. Not the Bomberman 64 you might be expecting. I have reviewed this game for the channel. This is the last game that came out for the Nintendo 64 in Japan. It came out 2001, I want to say, just as the GameCube came out. I think this came out in like December. The GameCube had come out in September. And this is actually, I think, the port of Bomberman Land. There was a game that's at least very similar in where you're just going around an arcade park full of Bomberman activities, but it's 2D, it's fun. I think you should play it, actually. I think it's pretty good. Next, we've got Bomberman Hero, one of the 3D Bomberman games. It's fine. I'm sure it's okay. I played the first Bomberman. I haven't played the other two Bomberman. Titles. Banjo-Kazooie. This is what Banjo-Kazooie no Daiboken 2. I think I have the first one in the box here somewhere. Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie series. Great. Collectible platformer by Rare. We got 2 Banjo-Kazooies for the 64. Beetle Adventure Racing. So, the thing about Beetle Adventure Racing is it's apparently one of the few rare games for the 64. I don't know. I just bought it because, I wanted to complete my set. But a completed box copy is now over $100 in Japan. Really weird. Don't know why. It's one of those, there's got to be at least 10 racing games for the 64. Because here's MRC here. This is Maruchi Racing Championship. That's a racing game. Actually, I've got a bunch over here. We've got Human Grand Prix. The Next Generation, not to be confused with F1 Grand Prix. And I know we've even got Wild Choppers, pulling that off the other stack since we're talking about racing games. This is just how there are so many racing games for the N64 that I just, in the piles of cartridges that I have, I could just pull them off of the top. Mario Kart 64, another racing game, probably the racing game for the 64. Wish I got it in better condition. It's probably, I was expecting to get it in the box, but I never did. So it's like, oh, here's my crappy, copy. I thought I had doubles of that, by the way. I have to make sure. Gotta go get a better copy of that one. So, I'm not that big into condition, but I at least don't want it to look like junk. Which is probably where I got it. Yoshi's Story. People say Yoshi's Story isn't that great. I think it's pretty good. I had this when I was but a young child, when I was in the 4th grade. It was one of the first N64 games that I got, along with Ocarina of Time. Yoshi's Story, very fun. I was playing it recently, testing out one of my doubles so that I could get rid of it. It holds up. I think it holds up. Wonder Project J2, actually fan translated. This never came out in the United States or Europe. It is, I believe, the sequel to a Super Nintendo game. It's like there's a robot lady, and it's sort of a choose your own adventure style of game, sort of like what would you say, an adventure game in the Sierra vein. It's fine. There's reviews of it out there. I've played it for like an hour and then I kind of gave up on it. Another racing game, probably the 5th that we featured in this video, Mickey no Racing Challenge USA, a Rare game. And I mean that in that it was developed or at least published by Rare in cooperation with Disney Interactive. Bunch of Mickey games for the 64. Perhaps that's why people thought it was a child system. Now, we talked about Nushitsuri. This is the sequel. Nushitsuri Shiokaze ni Notte. I think I'm saying that right. This is, it's just an RPG where you're fishing. And I think I don't know if the bugs can kill you in this one or not. I forget. But it's fine. It's fine. Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. One of the few games that I bought at Super Potato. I often caution people against buying games at Super Potato, unless, as it was the case for this game, you can't find it anywhere else. I had a hard time finding Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. I bought it for like $10, so it's still, cheap. It's not like it's expensive. It's just hard to find. It's one of those weird games. Usually, a hard-to-find game is usually expensive. But for the N64 especially, that's often not the case. Hard-to-find games are usually pretty cheap. Yes, and then we talked about this before, but the tradition, it seems to be a trend, perhaps a tradition, of going from Virtual Pro Wrestling 64 here, with its elaborate, even NWO and EWF and what New Japan details here, going from this hyper detailed to just more stylistic, more basic, but I think more impactful. I think this on the right, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2's label, looks much better than Virtual Pro Wrestling on the left. And I think I also reviewed these games as well. I know I definitely captured some footage of these. So I have played them. They're fine. I'm not big into wrestling anyway, so don't trust my opinion on that. Rakuga Kids. The completed in-box version of this is very expensive, but just a loose one is maybe, what, $10 to $20? This got released in both Japan and Europe, but there was no American release. Oh, and I see another wrestling game over here. Wrestlemania 2000 with The Rock. Who would think? Who would think that 20 years later, Dwayne The Rock Johnson would still be relevant? But he is. Wrestlemania 2000. Can't believe all of these wrestling games for the N64. And similarly, fighting game, fighting cup. There's a few fighting games. You know, when we think of fighting games for the N64, we think of Killer Instinct, perhaps some of the Mortal Kombat games. Fighting Cups, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's like The Legend of the Flying Dragon or whatever the English name is, but pretty close, pretty fine. Puzzle Bobble. Puzzle Bobble 64. Had a hard time finding this as well. Somewhat sought after. I know Puzzle Bobble for the Neo Geo is very expensive. This is not. I wouldn't pay over $10 or $20 for this game. But it's a good puzzler. It's fine. You shoot the bubble. It's okay. Yes, I think the last one we'll look at for this video, we'll get to these guys later. The last one is Violence Killer. Turok, the new generation. Violence Killer. This is the sequel to Turok. I actually have... I thought I had... Yes. You can see here I've got the original Turok that came out for the 64. Where I can't believe this was made into a video game. But then here's the sequel that they decided to label title Violence Killer. So, with that, I have a bunch more cartridges to show you, and perhaps we might get to the boxes in the next video. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. I've got more to show you for the Japanese N64. That's, I want to say, about 75% of the games that we've seen so far. But that leaves another 25%, as well as all the beautiful manuals that I have to show you. If you'd like to support the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/jcontra, where you can get exclusive content, as well as access to polls that will determine the future of the channel. I've been your man out of Japan, Jay Contra. Thanks for watching, and mahalo.